Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm so glad that we can have our service on this special Shabbat when we also celebrate the second night of Hanukkah. The candles have been previously lit, and we say the brachot over the Hanukkah candles first, and then we say the bracha over Shabbat candles. But before we do, I'd like to share that no matter how much darkness is out there in the world, we have the capacity to bring light into our hearts and visualize that flame burning, spreading light within us in the form of blessings. So let us begin blessing the Hanukkah candles first. And because we couldn't be together the first night of Hanukkah, let's recite all three blessings together that we would have done the first night, last night, which you'll find, by the way, on the Synagogue site, and then we'll follow the Shabbat candle blessing. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. And our Shechianu, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shechianu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. Thank you, dear God, for letting us arrive to this beautiful day. And now the Shabbat candles. La 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome, my friends. It's so good to be back with you for the first time since the high holidays and to join together again during a holiday. So I'm wishing you a Shabbat Shalom, and I'm also wishing you a Chag Sameach because it's Hanukkah. I'm going to be very brief today in my introductions because I have a more substantial sermon to deliver later, and we're going to now start with the Lecha Dodi. And after we do the chanting of the Lecha Dodi, we're going to go into the Baruch Hu, which is the formal call to worship. The word Baruch Hu, which is a term very familiar to many of us, usually when you say Baruch Hu, we bend our knees and we bow our head. The word Berech actually is the Hebrew word for knee, and the idea was that when you bless God, you acknowledge a force higher than you, bigger than you, something above you in the universe. So when we go Baruch Hu, we go like that. Anyway, I now turn the service back over to my dear colleague, Cantor Judy Fox, for the Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala Panei Shabbat nekabla Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Yishmianu elcham yuchad Adonai echad Ushmo echad L'shem ultiferet V'li tila Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nekabala Likrat Shabbat Lechu B'necha Ki Mikor Habracha Merosh Mikedem Nesucha Sof Ma'aseh B'machshava Tchila Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nekabala Hidorari Kivarech Gumiori Uri Shir Daveri Kabod Adonai Olaich Nigla Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nekabala Boi v'shalom Ateret ba'ala Kam b'simcha U'tzala Toch emunei Am segula Boi chala Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nekabala Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nekabala. And now, join with me in the Baruch Hu, where we together bless God's name as the community, as one. Baruch Adonai Mevorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Adonai Mevorach Leolam Vaed. Lai 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 lai.
Good Shabbos and Chag Sameach, everyone. Once again, welcome to our virtual service. 2020 has really been a year for the books, hasn't it? Well, we remain optimistic, and with each candle we illuminate during Hanukkah, the light gets brighter and brighter, akin to the light at the end of the tunnel for this pandemic. We are still here and look forward to seeing you all in person very soon.
We turn now to the prayer for those who are ill and to a prayer obviously for people's healing and recovery, the Mishaberach prayer. As has been traditional here, I always say it first in English so that everybody will understand what is being said when I then say it in Hebrew. In the Hebrew, when I say it, when I stop, you're going to insert the name. You can say it in your seat wherever you are or stand up, and insert the name of the person for whom you are praying. So first, let me say it in English. May he who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, please bless and heal, and then you insert the name or names, and grant them a complete healing, a healing of body, a healing of mind, a healing of soul, a healing of spirit, a relief from pain. If there can be a full recovery, God, please bring about the full recovery. If there can be a partial recovery, please bring about an improvement in the situation. And now, and with as little pain as possible. And now I'm going to say it in Hebrew. Excuse me for a second. Wow. And now I'm going to say it in Hebrew. Excuse me for a second. Mishaberach Avotenu, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, hu yivarech v'yirapeh. And now insert the name. V'yishlach lahem, Refuat HaNefesh, Refuat HaGuf, L'chol Eivarehem v'Gidehem, B'toch Shar Chole Yisrael v'Chole Tevel, Hashta Bagala v'Zman Kariv, and Omar, Amen. We now come to the most famous prayer in Judaism, and it's a short one, though there are then additions to it. But the first line is, of course, Shema Yisrael, Hear, O Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, the Lord is our God, Adonai Echad, the Lord is one. And I think so many of you know it, so let's join and sing it together. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And then we turn to the first paragraph, also from the Torah, also it's in the Bible. It's in Hebrew, it starts v'ahavta. But we have a tradition at the synagogue, we say the first paragraph aloud first in English, so that everybody will then understand what they are then saying. So please read with me in English. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home, when you are away, when you lie down, and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. That, of course, is the first paragraph of the Shema. And we now turn to chant together with Cantor Fox that very same first paragraph in Hebrew, the V'ahavta. Please sing along, chant along with the cantor.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Join me in the V'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shiftecha b'veitecha uvelechtecha v'derech uv'shachbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. Jews all over the world will light candles this Hanukkah. Candles that shine bright against the night and the darkness, and we will pray. We will pray that death and killing will cease to be part of the human experience. We will pray that the illumination of the Hanukkah flame spread to all corners of the world, bringing clarity, Torah values, God's wisdom, and loving kindness and compassion to fill the hearts, souls, and lives of all people on earth. So on this holiday, we light 8 candles representing the following.
The first candle is dedicated to faith. We demonstrate faith through our conduct toward others and toward ourselves, taking intentional action which honors that we are each created in the image of God. Let our faith become illuminated through acts of goodness that enrich our lives and the lives of others, just as this candle illuminates the darkness around it. The second candle stands for freedom. Freedom is the goal that has guided the destiny of humanity. Freedom is not something we can cherish just for ourselves. We must do everything within our personal power to lift up others into freedom. Let us celebrate this Hanukkah in the face of any existing opposition to freedom, and let us rededicate ourselves to freedom from persecution for our Jewish communities and to ensuring freedom for all beings who seek its light. The third candle stands for courage. There are many aspects associated with courage, from physical strength and fortitude to our firm philosophical convictions. Without courage, however, ideals are meaningless and faith disintegrates. We must have the courage to fight for freedom, or it will cease to exist. May we be blessed with the light of courage. The 3 candles, faith, freedom, and courage, grow stronger and brighter as we light the 4th candle, love. We have been given the miracle of life, and we can enjoy it better if we have life and love and share our love with the people around us. May the love in each of us lead the way home. Happy Hanukkah. Chag Sameach.
Spin, 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 you dreidel. Siffy bone, sov, sov. Siffy bone, sov, sov, sov. Chanukah, hu chag tov. Chanukah, hu chag tov. Siffy bone, sov, sov, sov. Chag simcha, hu la'am. Nes gadol, hayasham. Chag simcha, hu la'am. Nes gadol, hayasham. Siffy bone, sov, sov, sov. Chanukah, hu chag tov. Chanukah, hu chag tov. Siffy bone, sov, sov, sov. And we don't forget when we were little, the child within. I have a little dreidel. I have a little dreidel. I made it out of clay. And when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. Everyone now, dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. I made it out of clay. And when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. It has a lovely body with legs so short and thin. And when it is all tired, it drops and then I win. Oh, dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. I made it out of clay. And when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. My dreidel's always playful. It loves to dance and spin. A happy game of dreidel. Come play, now let's begin. Oh, dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. I made it out of clay. And when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. Oh, dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. I made it out of clay. And when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. Hey, and my favorite, oh Hanukkah, let's light the menorah. Hanukkah, oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. Dreidels to play with and latkes to eat. And while we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night, they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night, they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Here's some Yiddish. Hanukkah, oh Hanukkah, a jonte verschene. Alles together freilicher, nicht da noch a Säune. Alle Nacht in Dreidel spielen wir. Heiße fette Latkes essen wir. And while we are playing, the candles are burning low, low, low. One for each night, they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night, they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago.
Charity is the fifth candle. We get great pleasure when we give of ourselves, even as charity's real purpose is to help others. In the Jewish tradition, the giving of charity is one of the highest forms of righteousness. May the impulse to give to those who would benefit from our contributions be strengthened and sustained in us. The sixth candle is integrity. If we have integrity, we will keep our faith. We will hold our freedom dear. We will place courage high. We will respect love, and we will give charity. May our integrity bring about a renewed sense of wholeness in each of our lives. The seventh candle is knowledge. With knowledge, we know the value of faith, the joy of freedom, the pride of courage, the tenderness of love, the warmth of charity, and the comfort of integrity. May our knowledge abound and be fortified in each of our minds and hearts. Our eighth candle is the candle of peace. Hanukkah is not a celebration of battle, but rather of peace. May a peace in which all men and women live in equality and dignity be cultivated and cherished, and may the light of this candle of peace overcome all darkness. Happy Hanukkah, Chag Sameach.
Join me in Rock of Ages, Ma'otzur. Rock of Ages, let our song praise your saving power. You amidst the raging foes were our sheltering tower. Furious they assailed us, but your arm availed us, and your word broke their sword when our own strength failed us, and your word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. Ma'otzur Yeshuati lechana l'shabeach tikun beit tefilati v'sham toda nizabeach liyetachin madbeach mitzar hamnabeach azegmor b'shir mizmor Chanukat hamizbeach azegmor b'shir mizmor Chanukat hamizbeach. Happy Hanukkah.
There's an expression in Hebrew, Hakol talui b'mazal, afilu sefer Torah b'aron kodesh. Everything depends on luck, even the placement of a Torah in the Holy Ark. What the expression meant, of course, was that in most synagogues, they have several Torah scrolls, and some get used more often, some get used less frequently. It all depends on luck. Some Torah scrolls get used more often. In that sense, Hanukkah is a lucky holiday. If you're thinking in terms of sanctity, well, when are Jews most apt to go to synagogue or to celebrate a holiday? Obviously, the ones that come most quickly to mind is Pesach, Passover. The Passover Seder is the most widely observed Jewish ritual. And then, of course, Rosh Hashanah and in particular Yom Kippur, the high holidays. There are other biblical holidays, most obviously Shabbat, and then, of course, Sukkot and Shavuot. But guess what? They are not the third most widely observed. What comes next is Hanukkah. Shabbat obviously is very, very important, but on any given Shabbat, the percentage of Jews who are observing it actually is smaller than the percentage of Jews who are observing Hanukkah. So Hanukkah had luck. What accounts for Hanukkah's luck? Its placement in the calendar. Hanukkah, of course, always occurs in close proximity or in relatively close proximity to Christmas. Christmas, of course, is the widest celebrated holiday, certainly in the United States, actually throughout the whole Christian world. And a lot of Jewish kids probably suffer from a little envy. Seems like a lot of fun. There are Christmas trees and there are gifts. Fortuitously, a happy Jewish holiday occurs right around that time, and it's called Hanukkah. My father, alav shalom, who was an accountant for a company that produced candles and other Jewish ritual items, said that the closer Hanukkah felt to Christmas, their sales would actually increase, because Jewish parents were so happy to be able to provide their children with this experience. It becomes very much associated with gifts, and America, which has been extraordinarily tolerant and open to Jews. You know, the mere fact it's the only society in which Jews have ever lived that speaks of a Judeo-Christian tradition. And in recent decades, actually, there has been an annual Hanukkah party at the White House. Things like that, and under different presidents, obviously, not only under Republicans, not only under Democrats, it's been a bipartisanly observed holiday. So Hanukkah's really gotten a tremendous recognition, and that's a very good thing. But Hanukkah actually is one of those Jewish holidays that is very important not only to the Jews, but historically it's been very important to the world, certainly to the Christian world, and I'll tell you why. Who's the bad guy in the Hanukkah story? It was the emperor of Syria, Antiochus Epiphanes. His name basically can be rendered in English as Anthony God Manifest. In other words, this is a guy who had a pretty high regard for himself. And he encountered a lot of resistance in Israel, which was right next to Syria and which he was ruling over. And he was informed, perhaps it's possible even by some Jewish informants, that part of the Jewish resistance to him came from the fact of their religion. That their religion certainly denied him calling himself God Manifest. They didn't want to observe. They weren't idolatrous. And he was an idolater, and guess what? He was the idol. So when he learned that it was Judaism that was the source of the opposition to him, he decided he was going to strike down Judaism, and he tries to wipe it out. For one thing, for example, he makes Torah study a capital crime. Not only Torah study is a capital crime, even possession of a Bible is a capital crime. He goes after those laws that have helped keep Judaism alive. For example, circumcision, which has always been the mark of the Jewish male. He makes circumcision a crime punishable by death, and for the parents who carried it out. He brings a pig as an offering at the temple. Now, the pig is one of a number of animals that are unkosher, but for whatever reason, it's the one that most entered the popular mind as the epitome of something a Jew's not supposed to eat. So bringing it as an offering at the temple was meant to offend the Jews to the greatest extent possible. And indeed, he sent troops around to different little cities. In those days, most of the towns were, quite small. And he would gather all the Jews in the town square, the order of the king. An officer would come in, and then they would command a Jew to slaughter a pig and to eat from it. And in one town called Modi'in, the sort of leading Jew in the town, Mattathias, refused to do it. And another Jew stepped forward, thinking maybe he'd get some reward from the king or from the crown for doing so, and he started to eat of the swine. Mattathias struck down the official, and then called out to the other Jews there, whoever wants to stay with God and with the covenant, follow me. Mila Hashem, whoever is for God, acharai, follow me. And they, of course, then initiate the revolt, the Maccabean revolt, which ultimately drives out and overpowers the forces of Antiochus. They were a small band, so it really was one of the original guerrilla wars, and they chased them out. They then retake possession of the temple, and that was, of course, the holiest site in Jewish life. And it's a little depressing. Not a little depressing, it's very depressing. When they take it over there, they have to get rid of the idols that were inserted there. He had put in an idol of Jupiter there, and they wanted to rededicate it with oil that had been prepared ritually in the proper manner, but there was very little ritually prepared oil. They only had oil that would work for one day, and it would take them 8 days to prepare the rest of the oil. And that's when the miracle of Hanukkah happened, and the oil for one day lasted for 8 days. I once saw a cartoon showing a father trying to explain what this all meant to his son. Imagine your cell phone. It only has 1 more hour of power, and it lasts for 8 hours. That's how he was trying to convey in modern terms what happened. And so as a result, they celebrate then, and that becomes the miracle most associated with Hanukkah. As a result, the foods that are popularly eaten in Hanukkah tend to be foods fried in oil, the potato latke being the classic example of potatoes and onions, and it becomes really a very happy holiday. But I want people to reflect on the significance of the holiday. When Antiochus tried to outlaw Judaism and destroy it, had he succeeded, it would have had a world-transforming effect, because at that time, Christianity did not yet exist. We're talking about 167 before the Common Era, and Islam certainly did not exist, so that the Jews then at that time were the only monotheists in the world. So if this one monotheist religion at that time had been wiped out, who knows what would have happened? Because remember, obviously, Christianity arose from within Judaism. Obviously, Jesus was Jewish. And Muhammad always emphasized that he had learned about the notion of monotheism from Jews and Christians in Medina. So this event, which happened in 167 BCE, has had massive implications for the rest of the world. And that's really why it was so important. Had Antiochus's plan succeeded, we're going to need to edit here for a minute because I have to find where my notes are. I've often reflected on the fact that Antiochus, who just saw this as one of the campaigns, maybe not even such a big campaign for him, he would be shocked to know that the only people today in the world who are familiar with his name are actually the Jews celebrating Hanukkah, and who, of course, regard him as a terrible tyrant. Anthony God Manifest is really not known to almost anybody else in the world. Why do we light the candles? Ideally, it's a special commandment, it's a special mitzvah, and it's different than the Sabbath candles. The Sabbath candles ultimately are rooted in the notion of being utilized. In other words, if you're sitting in a dark room and the only candles that you have there, the only light you had there, and for most of human history, that's things were lit by fire, you can read by that candle. On the other hand, you're not supposed to read by the Hanukkah candles. You're just supposed to observe them, ideally put them near your window, and carry out what's called Pirsume Nisa, making known the miracle. It's a holiday we're proud to have made known to others. Today, the Chabad movement within Judaism started the process, and other Jews are also doing it, of public lightings of menorahs where many, many people can be present. And I was in Geneva some years ago. It was during Hanukkah. I was at a conference going on in Geneva, and like 400 people showed up in the middle of the Geneva for the candle lighting. Believe me, it was really, really quite cold. There were largely Jews, but there were non-Jews there as well. And these public lightings of the Hanukkah menorah have become very, very common. As I was preparing this sermon, a thought came to my mind. I remember when I was quite young, I think it was in 1962, so I would have been 14, Eleanor Roosevelt, who had been Franklin Delano Roosevelt's wife, now his widow, and who was really a beloved figure, a great humanitarian. She died, and Adlai Stevenson, who was a very well-known figure in the Democratic Party in those days, and who also was the American ambassador to the UN, had been good friends with Eleanor Roosevelt. And in speaking of her, he said of her, she would rather light a candle than curse the darkness, and the glow of the candle she lit has illuminated the whole world. I think what Stevenson said of Eleanor Roosevelt has been true of the Maccabees as well, and it's true of the holiday of Hanukkah. The Maccabees lit a candle, and it has brought a glow to the entire world. And in recent years, that glow has become even more pronounced. So when I wish you all a happy Hanukkah, I do so with a very, very full heart. And may you really enjoy the holiday, and may your children and your grandchildren and your parents, whatever age you are, may they have great enjoyment from this holiday. Chag Sameach. In a moment, we are going to do the Amidah prayer, which really gives people an opportunity, number one, to sing along with the cantor, who opens it up by singing this standard prayer, which is a part of every Jewish religious service, even more so than the Shema. The Shema is not a part, for example, of the afternoon Mincha service. The Amidah is at every service. Please, those of you who are familiar with it, join along with the cantor. And after she stops singing, we have a few minutes of silent meditation. And when that concludes, we will then go to the Aleinu prayer. The Aleinu prayer is part of every Jewish religious service, and many, many of you, I think, all know it. And please sing along with Cantor Fox. And now we go to the Amidah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomer Chasodim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot Umevi Goel Livnei V'neihem L'man Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayeh Meitim Atah Rav Lehoshia. And at this point, let us turn within, let us pray. Whatever is in your heart, send out blessings of healing, blessings of praying for renewal, and blessings that there will be peace in the world. We recite the Aleinu together, again as a community, as one. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liyoser breshit, shelo asanu kigoye aratzot, velo samanu kamishbechot adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, V'gar aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu
קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
As we prepare to say the Kaddish, I share with you, though I think you all know it by now, 2 months ago, my son Benjamin Wolf, Ben Sion Zev, died very, very suddenly. He hadn't been so well, but the death came very, very suddenly. Many of you knew Ben, who often came out to services here with me. I was actually going to speak more about him. He had an extraordinary character. I wrote the book, Words That Hurt, Words That Heal. Benji, better than I, lived it. I have more to say, but I can't. Please join me in the Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma dibra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agalav v'zman kariv v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach li'olam ul'olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kutsha brichu, le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiram b'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen.
We'll say shalom together, where we praise God as He makes peace for the people Israel, for people all over the world, and we say amen.
Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
May there be peace in the world, peace here in the United States, peace within ourselves, because then we can have peace always.
We're so happy to celebrate with you this evening. I'd like to thank everyone who made it possible. Our fearless leaders, Rabbi Joseph Telushkin and Cantor Judy Fox. They have spearheaded these services with a passion and tenacity that is unrivaled. Executive Director Cookie Miller, Ritual Vice President Susie Ross, and Administrator Dara Petnato, who keeps this clock ticking. Accompanist Nick Fryman. Videographers Michael Bell and Victor Carr. Our steadfast readers Marcy Goldman and Herb Mendelson, and our editor Frank Petnato. From all of us at the SFTPA, good Shabbos and Happy Hanukkah.
I'm so happy that we had this opportunity to spend part of the Hanukkah holiday together. May you go on. Today is, of course, the second night of Hanukkah, so we still have through the 8th night. May you have a wonderful, wonderful Hanukkah. And of course, today is also Shabbat, so we recite the Kiddush. Please join with Cantor Fox as she concludes the service with the recitation of the Kiddush over the wine. Thank you very much.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, b'yava uvrotzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol hamim, b'shabbat kodshecha, b'yava uvratzon hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat L'chaim. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat 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 Shalom. Shabbat 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 Shalom. Shabbat 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 Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat 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 Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining us at the Hanukkah Shabbat service. Every year is special. Chag Sameach.